Hi folks, Florida Man here. Today I'm bringing you one perspective on a game I played with several players I've now had a few interactions with. The game was called Perigord, and it was played on Backstabber. What follows is the Austrian perspective. Hello, it's good to be talking with you again.
Yeah,
I'll share the screen so we can discuss this game we played in together, where I was France and you were Austria.
Yeah. Let me start this off by saying this is the game that Talleyrand should have been. It was difficult. Everyone was playing an excellent game. There was tons of subterfuge and lying and manipulation and so many inception levels of you're thinking this, so I'm thinking that. So to make him think this, we're going to do that. And it was a very, very high-end intellectual game. In a lot of other games of diplomacy, it does not get this intense.
No, I can agree with that. I think there was a lot of attempting to kind of read each other's intentions, a lot of information trading, a lot of strategizing, a lot of revenge taking. It was diplomacy, in other words.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So I was France, and early on in this game, I developed a relationship with Germany. Why don't you tell the viewers how you started out?
So I got Austria. I enjoy playing Austria. Austria tends to be a military powerhouse, a diplomatic key player on the course of events, and can be a very good solo power. Austria is one of my favorites just because of the versatility of it. It also has a tendency to die very early, and if you can survive the intro, then you can normally work your way into something. So out of the gate, again, going for the central triple. And Germany is telling me they're on board. They want to do a central triple. Italy's telling me they want to do a central triple. Great. And at the beginning, so I reached out to everybody, try and check in with everyone, make sure we're all on good basis, and try and make sure there's nothing too bad in 1901. So everyone was incredibly responsive except for Russia out of the gate. And Russia wanted to DMZ Galicia. And I was like, you know what? That's fine. I'm okay doing that. But as I kept talking to all of the other players and Russia just didn't really send anything, I decided, I think they're probably going to stab me. So I'm going to move to Galicia. And turns out Russia thought the same thing. The other big issue here was, well, two other issues. Germany was supposed to move straight into Burgundy because we talked about it in the central triple thread that they were going to go hard France, and Italy wanted them to go hard France. And Germany said, yeah, sure, I'm going to do that. And Italy was supposed to move that fleet into Theiss. And so of all information I had, 75% of it turned out to be false. I mean, Russia said they weren't going to move into Galicia. Turkey was honest. Italy was supposed to move into Theiss. Germany was supposed to move into France. You were supposed to not move into Piedmont. There was a whole bunch of things that happened. So I tried keeping a good relationship with England because I knew that we needed England alive and attacking France in order to be effective to knock out the French player. And so I tried egging England on as much as I could to go after France. And I found myself in an awkward situation in which I like being allies with Italy. And as Austria, Italy is your better ally than Turkey. I am of the persuasion that AT always fails. It's not always, but for the most part, ATs fail, in my experience.
I can't say that I haven't experienced that. I've seen that happen a lot. So,
and Turkey was being very responsive, and Turkey wanted me to stab and attack the Italians quickly, as any Turkish player should. So I was unclear if there was an RT or not. And what really threw me is Russia told me that Turkey had told them they were moving to Armenia. And I could not grasp why. If there was an RT, why would Turkey waste that move? Unless this is some long-term subterfuge, where they try and hide it, which I've seen before. Because RT tends to be really powerful, sometimes they try to hide it. And so I was really torn on, do I trust the Russians or the Turks or neither of them or both of them? And I didn't really know. I was also really upset with the Germans that they didn't attack France out of the gate. And I was less upset with the Italians because I could understand this move. It was okay. It was doable.
Ari, he wasn't Turkey in this game, but I remember in Talleyrand he told me that his default as Turkey is to open to Armenia. So, I mean, there are some players who think that gives them some kind of leverage. I personally do not like that opening unless I'm actually attacking Russia, but I guess some people think it's more of a neutral opening than I see it as. But so you were not happy with how things went early on?
I wasn't unhappy, but it wasn't optimal. Because I'm still in a position here that I can do stuff. I can still make decisions.
So what kind of plays did you start making next?
Turkey was really trying to sell me on the AT. And I played along, and so I was very, very close to taking this. And so what I decided in fall 1901 is I wanted to be the truthful person, and so I tried coming up with a set of orders that I could tell Russia, Turkey, and Italy I would do, all for different reasons.
I love that. That's a great... that's a thing I love to do myself, actually.
So I told Turkey that I was going to move back into Trieste to defend myself because I think the Italians are going to stab me. I told the Russians, let's bounce again in Galatia and establish some trust. I told the Italians, hey, let's bounce in Trieste so I can stay in Albania to later support you. And you should convoy and take Tunis. And so I tried doing that, and we tried getting Germany on board again to be anti-French. And Germany was very frustrating because spring 1901, they said, yep, I'll invade France, and then they didn't do it. And then here I said, would you please do the Russia bound? Russia is probably going to pick up Romania and Sweden, and I don't want them to get two. And Germany was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. They didn't do it.
Germany at this
at this point, what's that?
I said Germany at this point is being very honest with me, and I guess did not really believe in the triple.
The Central Triple is so good for so many reasons.
It is a strong alliance. I have a video coming out about it.
And I found that the Germans are the ones that want to break it more often.
Yes.
Like our game, where I was Italy and you were Austria.
In my video on it, I note that the main weakness of the Central Triple, or one of the main weaknesses, is that at the beginning, only two of the powers can really help each other. So it's either Italy and Austria working together, or Italy and Germany, because usually Germany has to be committed to the Western Front, and Italy has to choose, and Austria has to be committed to the East.
Italy can split its forces, though.
A little bit, but it's hard to split 3 units.
Yeah, there is a way to do it. So, for instance, here, if Italy had moved into Piedmont.
Yeah, if Italy had moved into Piedmont, that could have done something, especially if Germany had actually, as you suggested, been in Burgundy.
Correct. And if they moved into Piedmont at this point, because it would have been tying up your units, because England was full gung-ho. England was willing to attack France, but they needed to see those units get tied up. And if Italy had gone into Piedmont, and I tried getting them to do that, and there's a point of diplomacy where you try and sell a good idea to someone, and you realize they don't like the idea. And if you keep trying to sell that idea, they will turn on you. But if you just stop and say, okay, that's fine, let's do what your plan is, then they will still be your ally. So that's what I ran into here with Italy. I kept trying to sell, go to Piedmont, and they didn't want to do it because they liked you. And so I realized I just had to stop. And that's the reality of the situation. And by continuing to press that button, I was going to alienate Italy as an ally. And with Russia and Turkey still kind of up in the air, I couldn't afford to make that mistake.
That's interesting.
So I continued talks with Turkey, and I fed Turkey everything I could get from every player on the board. I'm just trying to be a good ally and feed stuff to them. And I'm really, really tempted to do the AT here.
I think it could have been powerful, considering that you guys really managed to put Russia on the back foot. Keeping Russia out of Romania is kind of incredible.
And that was the plan of the South. And so things are going well with Turkey right here.
It's just a pity that Turkey moved out of Bulgaria, I think, because I don't know if that was planned between you two, but I think that took Turkey out of position to be as useful as Turkey could.
That was planned. The idea was Italy was telling us both that they weren't going to go for Greece, and so we're like, I wonder if they're actually going to go for Greece. And so for Turkey, it was a scenario of just go to Greece. If you get it, great. Or you bounce the Italians. Like, you have nothing to lose.
Interesting. I mean, I feel like Italy almost never goes for Greece in 1901, but...
Oh, I love taking Greece in 1901.
I think if you can do it, that's great. It's so risky to try for it because you could miss getting...
So risky. Oh, it is. Absolutely. So about this time, Italy is a really good communicator, and they responded very fast and frequently. And I had no idea where they were in the world because they were responding at like 4 a.m., noon, 8 p.m. They were responding all over the place.
Italy never sleeps.
Italy never sleeps. And I had no idea where they were at. And I'm also a very like communicative person by nature. And so we talked a lot. And I decided, like, you know what? I think I can go a lot further with this person who talks a lot. I'm still willing to stab them when the time is right, but they were starting to come up in my eyes, which will be important in the next year.
I see. Okay, let's go to the build phase then. You got a new army.
This is all standard.
Yeah, I was going to say not much needs to be said there. Going after Russia, need an army.
And Italy and I are both very, very frustrated with Germany because Germany keeps saying, yes, I'll attack France, and they won't do it.
Well, you know, so that army might also have another direction it can go, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right. What's going on in the spring of 1902?
So this is where things fall apart with me and Turkey for the first time. I say first because there's a second. So I work out with the Russians. We're going to bounce in Galatia. Come down and take Rum. I'm not going to stop you. And Italy starts to really float this AIR concept. I don't like AIRs as Austria because you're kind of in the middle and it's really easy to get pinched out later.
Yeah.
And I am really pushing privately with Italy. I'm pushing for, let's still do the Central Triple, but let's put Germany in the scenario that they kind of have to join the Central Triple in order to win. So Italy and I have two different long-term plans at this point. And then in the short term, we both agree. So I work out what I'm going to do with the Russians. We plan for this. And I work everything out with the Italians for this. Now my relationship with Turkey. Once I had all those plans set, with Turkey, this was the turn that I was supposed to... I'm trying to remember exactly what I was supposed to do. I think I was supposed to take Albania to Trieste or to the Adriatic, or maybe to Greece. No. I was supposed to take Albania to Greece, I think, because I was going to bounce the Italians so that the Turks could get back into Bulgaria. They keep Greece as an SC, and I'm in a position to then boot the Russians out of Romania for the fall and to take it back.
Wow. If you'd been trying to do AT, that would be a pretty good plan, I feel like.
It was a solid plan. And the problem I ran into was in fall 1901. I think spring 1901 as well. I'm sorry, I'm fuzzy on the details. But I had given Turkey a lot of information. I was feeding Turkey, here's what I got, here's what I know. And they'd say, great, thank you. And I'd say, what do you know? And they wouldn't give me anything. I gave them all of my orders. They gave me all of their orders. Great, checks out, we're on the same page. And here for spring 1902, I gave them all my orders because I was going to do the Turkish plan. And I waited, and they said, cool, thank you. And Turkey wouldn't give me their orders. And I waited for a long period of time, and I kept talking. And I gave them hey, quid pro quo, this builds a good relationship. Are you going to send me your orders? And I asked that. And when I asked that, Turkey flipped out. And they went off on me, and they kind of yelled at me about how the only ever time you ask for people's orders is when you're about to stab them. I've undermined the entire relationship. They no longer trust me now, and they never will. And I should do what I told them I'm going to do anyhow.
Well, that sounds like a bizarre set of self-destructive words to say to an ally.
Yeah.
I mean,
here's a scenario where I have a better plan with Turkey. I could have made a lot of gains. However, he just lost it. And at this point, I have to decide, do I still want to trust a person who just told me I no longer trust you and who flipped out and go through with that plan? Or do I stab them?
Yeah.
So I decided I couldn't trust them anymore. And so I went with the Italian-Russian plan and stabbed them.
Huh. Wow. That is a turning point in this game.
And the Turks flipped out when I did this. They were very, very mad at me for fair reasons. But I was like, look, dude, I gave you lots of information. You gave me very little back. I gave you orders. You gave me your orders. I gave you my orders again. You wouldn't give them. I asked you, will you give me my orders? And he flipped out at me. And I was like, okay, this is... Nope. I mean, and he makes a good argument. Like, you don't share your orders typically in diplomacy because that's just a recipe for getting stabbed. I get that. But in this high-level game where everyone is talking a lot and there's a lot of stuff on the line and we've been establishing this relationship, you could say no, but you could be nice about it.
Yeah, I think it's the being so radical about it, that's so extreme about it. It's I think that's the problem here, because I do understand sometimes not being reluctant to give your orders. In the case of what Turkey's ordering here, he might think that you're trying to figure out where he's moving his Smyrna fleet to, so that Italy can get around the defenses, and that you're going to move into Greece, and Italy will move into Aegean or East Med. Maybe Turkey's foreseeing this gigantic invasion of Turkey, but there's a better way to discuss this than to just, as you put it, flip out, as he apparently did.
And he had a very rational fear here. If Black Sea had not supported Greece to Bulgaria, we would have destroyed that army. And that's a perfectly valid fear. But he could have conveyed that. He could have said, hey, I understand where you're coming from. I get this. But in this particular scenario, I think it's best if I support Greece to Bulgaria instead. Because this won't change anything long term. It's going to be okay. And he could have just explained that. But instead, he pulled out the big stick and he started beating me with it. And so I did what you probably should do in that scenario. And I said, okay, man, that's great. We're still best friends. I'm not going to stab you. Even though I decided I was going to. Because at this point, I made a personality decision.
Yeah. I understand. And I feel like personality is important enough in the game that this is going to be a pretty common thing.
And personality isn't always a factor, but in a high-level game where everyone is communicating so much and there's so many layers of lying and deception, personality is a factor.
Personality is usually a factor, I find. It was a factor in this game. It was a factor in Talleyrand for sure. It's just its personalities clashing is often a decisive factor in diplomacy, despite all our calculations and manipulations.
Yeah. So, Turkey was mad. Oh, and last thing in spring, Germany. And so I was like, hey, Germany, would you please take Sweden? You've got to take Sweden to counterbalance the Russians so that when I boot the Russians out, you'll be there. And he's like, yeah, sure, I will. But he very clearly coordinated with the Russians right here.
Well, he was happy to move into Sweden.
And it was just another one of those, like, come on, man. I'm trying to, do the Central Triple with you here. And he just keeps telling me, yes, he's going to help. And he just keeps lying. And it's like, all right, I don't know what to do for you.
I would also note that here I feel as if you, if you know that Germany is working with France, which it's become increasingly apparent over 1901 that he is, I don't know if you asking Germany to attack Russia when they're all potentially working against England, if that's really like something that would be in Germany's interests to do.
Yeah, that's fair.
But of course, you want Germany to at least be honest with you about the reasons why Germany's not necessarily willing to do that.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fair. I get that. It was just another like drip in the cup of Germany is not a cooperative player or very helpful. And we needed that, and that's going to be important towards the middle game. So this is where those seeds are really sown. And I'm talking with England, and I told England, dude, build a fleet in London, and you can do some maneuvers, and you can hold forever. And he's like, nah, I'm going to do an army. All right. So he built the army, and I told him, I was like, hey, France is going to take the English Channel, because I think you told me that. And it's also like the obvious thing to do for you. And he didn't believe it. So you played England very well.
I don't think I tried to convince England of anything here. Oh, but I believe Germany did. I believe Germany here actually tried to convince England that we might do a Western triple. And
as we've already discussed, the Western triple is not a thing.
Well, the Western triple can sort of be an interesting alliance sometimes. It's not something I would normally expect Germany to suggest, and if Germany does suggest that, alarm bells would go off for me as England. And
I felt bad. I really liked the English player. They were communicative. They were fun.
Oh yeah, the English player was a cool person, I think.
Yeah, they took it all very well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had good communications with England. I knew early on that England was coordinating with Italy, though, when the idea was potentially moving against me. So that made it harder for me to consider working with England back in 1901. And at this point, having built a fleet and having been invited by Germany into Belgium, the die has sort of been cast for me.
Yeah, pretty much.
Going to fall. What is going down here? It's a bunch of pretty colors in your neck of the woods.
So Italy's pushing this AIR, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Russia and I work out, okay, we're going to bounce in Galatia. And Russia says, great, I'm going to support you into Bulgaria. And so we have a scenario here where we both lied to each other in Spring 01. I think I lied fall 01 about bouncing them from Run. And then Spring 02, everything's great. And so fall 02, Russia stabs me. And so we have this back and forth where we just can't quite get it to work.
Seems like Russia's not very trustworthy for you.
No, he's a great player. I really like him. And I don't know why. In Talleyrand, he was very communicative, but in this game, he wasn't. And so he was supposed to support me into Bulgaria. And so we had coordinated, like, hey, we're going to just knock out Turkey really quick, and we're going to be done with this. Because Turkey... So how Turkey flipped out with me, Turkey had also been kind of rude, I guess, to the Russians, and also kind of rude to the Italians. And so everyone was kind of on board. Let's just get rid of the Turks. Huh. And Russia decided, no, Austria already stabbed me. I'm going to stab them now. It's my turn. And so they did. And I can't really blame them for that. That was fine.
Interesting.
Yeah, it'll come back. And this is one of the themes in the game that me and Russia just could not get on the same page, no matter what. Because when it's my turn to be the trusting one, they kind of screw me. And when it's their turn to be the really trusting one, I don't trust them and I kind of screw them. And this is going to be a theme throughout the game.
Interesting. I mean, that's always a factor of something like that's going on one side of the board. From my perspective in the West, I remember I was thinking, this is beautiful chaos.
Oh, beautiful for you.
Yeah, because like I am trying in an orderly way to bring down the English, although I am concerned because my German ally seems to be getting a little distracted by Russia. And Russia is also in that sort of acting in that sort of vein by getting interested in by taking Sweden from Germany, which had been promised to Germany, in exchange for getting Russia into Norway. So there's going to be this whole conflict between them that's totally unproductive and not profitable at all for our side.
Now that's fascinating, because I'm curious what happened with the Russian player this turn, in which they decided to kind of switch alliances. Because in spring, they were on board with me and the Germans and the Italians. And in fall, they switched me on board with the English and the Turks.
Well, I would say that England just made Russia a better offer than Germany. I'm not sure about the southeast, because I kind of wonder how much Russia was really on board after actually seeing the spring orders process and seeing that Turkey didn't do anything to attack Russia, and Turkey did everything defensively or offensively toward you and Italy. Maybe Russia had been hoping to work with Turkey.
I think so. And
as Russia, that's common. That's how I always think as Russia, is that if I can work with Turkey, I'm going to probably do it, because the Juggernaut is a really tried and true alliance, and I think it is much more secure for Russia than the Austria-Russia alliance.
It's true, and that's fine. So this is the point where Italy and I start going, there's the Juggernaut, see, we called it, and trying to get everyone all up in arms. So we're trying to get you off Italy's back so he can work on them. We're trying to get Germany to help. So
I haven't been on Italy's back. Italy's been the one insisting on this bounce in Piedmont.
Yeah, and Italy and I talked about that. What we wanted is we wanted that army tied down. Because
that was super annoying for me, and it made me want to attack Italy.
It was because we wanted that army tied down so that when, ideally, the Germans decide to do the Central Triple someday, they can actually join the fight. So that was all coordinated and planned.
Oh, man, that made me want to build fleets and go after Italy as soon as I could.
Yeah.
I was super frustrated. I was like, this is a wasted unit. I need to get out of Marseille and build a fleet there.
And Germany was on board with this too. They're like, yeah, just keep bouncing them in Piedmont. Just keep that army tied up. I'm coming, guys. I'm coming. I'll be there. I'm coming.
Yeah. There are some players like that who believe in having trying to get other players to do stuff to poke their allies, because they're hoping that will make sure their allies never focus on them, never attack them, and are constantly worried about some other person. Because and I don't think that that's bad strategically. I think that's actually kind of clever. And England was kind of, I think, doing the same thing by talking to Italy and trying to get Italy to move to Piedmont.
Yeah. All right.
Go into the builds.
This is all pretty straightforward for everyone.
Yeah, you get rid of that fleet. Italy has plenty of fleets. You don't need the fleet. You need the armies.
And this is where Turkey's like, hey, we can get along again if you keep the fleet in Ion and use it against Italy. And I'm like, that is the dumbest thing. And then Turkey did it again, and they got really mad at me for for disbanding the fleet.
Did you say you'd disband it?
No.
Turkey. That is interesting. I mean, like, I think very few, because that leaves you so vulnerable to Turkey. I think very few players would do that. It's like if a lion could talk and it's saying, "Oh yes, I know I've got you backed into this corner, but if you just stick your head between my jaws, I promise that we can be friends."
And so Turkey tried doing that with me, and so I played the game, and I said, I'm not going to disband it, but I think we can still get along. Here's what we can do. So we tried playing that, and I tried getting Turkey to attack Russia and coming up with something.
Mm-hmm. And how well does that work?
Let's see, spring, because I'm trying to get the timing right on this.
Was Turkey supposed to attack Russia in spring, or was he supposed to wait till fall?
So this is where the ARI thread comes back up, and Italy is like, all right, Austria and Russia, stop being morons, get along. We can knock out Turkey real quick if you would just get along. And we're like, okay. And Germany is like, hey, I'm going to help you now against the Russians. They weren't supposed to boot me. And all of a sudden, Germany's all in for the Central Triple. And Germany strikes up this message between me and Turkey, and they tried coordinating against the Russians. And I'm like, this is a whole new level from you, Germany. I don't know what to do with this.
I can't say I much cared for this, to be honest. Germany, I wouldn't even call this commitment to the Central Triple. I would say Germany gets really annoyed at Russia for Russia breaking their word, and Russia just commits to vengeance. Germany just commits to vengeance against Russia, and it was frustrating, to be honest, because it was such a waste of resources from my perspective. And at the same time, in addition to being a little bit frustrating, it's also opening Germany up for a stab.
Yep. So I invited Italy to come to Trieste. And the plan was go to Trieste, and then I'm going to work with the AIR to support you into Serbia, or you're going to support me into Serbia, and it's all going to be okay point-wise. Point is, I invited Italy in. And since last year, Italy and I have a really close relationship that every single move we do from this point on to the end of the game is coordinated.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I think that's going to be really critical for your outcome here.
It will, and we'll talk about the end game. I have a lot to say on that end game. So Italy and I are fully on board with everything we're doing. I invite them into Trieste. We're trying to figure out how much the RT is there, and you can tell from the moves here, Russia and Turkey are getting along. They could have done some sort of coordinated action with each other. It looked like... So Germany bounced Russia and Silesia. And so I talked that up to Turkey, saying, hey, Turkey, it looks like the Russians and Germans are... That was planned. And I don't know how much Turkey believed that, but Turkey definitely parroted that back to me. Germany looks like they're coming on board, and they're going to finally help me against the Russians. And I've got a plan in motion. We knew the Italian fleet was probably going to get destroyed, and we were okay with that. And so I'm trying to play the game here of get the Turks to attack the Russians to let me and Italy get into a better position so that we can knock out the Turks. And ideally, we can keep the Germans occupied and keep the Russians at bay so that Italy and I can get the lion's share of the spoils. That's what I'm going for here.
Sounds like a difficult order to execute successfully, but I mean, just because you and Italy are smaller than like Russia and Germany.
Doable, but if Italy and I are one power, and these are all shared units, then this is probably the route to go.
Yeah, I think that it's feasible. I think you could certainly get the lion's share of Turkey between the two of you.
That's what we're going for.
Yeah.
And so I had tons of sandboxing with Italy and Germany, and we came up with this ballsy plan that I was going to get into Galatia, and the Turks were going to be okay with that because from there I was going to be able to do some other stuff and do some damage. And there's lots of mind games going on here. So everything matters in the fall, right?
Yes. And the fall sees...
So this was good stuff and bad stuff. On the Turkish front, this was all planned, support me into Serbia. And I was going to Budapest to cover myself, and I was going to strike Romania in the hopes that... Oh, okay, I remember now what happened. So this was frustrating because Russia was on board with us, and Russia from Romania was going to support Albania to Serbia. They said they were going to do that. They're like, hey, I'm on board. I'm going to take back Galatia. And I was like, okay, take it back, so that this way Turkey thinks we're still fighting somewhat. And it was this really weird dynamic in which we were trying to set up the scenario that Turkey had no idea what side Russia was on. And then Russia at the last minute is like, hey, by the way, I think it's better if Romania just supports Serbia so that it looks like to the Turks that I'm actually on their team. And so we worked it out. This was all kind of last minute. We worked it out. They're like, okay, I'll just tap Romania to make sure I still get Serbia.
Yeah.
So Russia got Turkey's plans, and we figured out a way to still do it to get me Serbia and to get Italy into Greece. And so on the same side, I'm in this three-way with Italy and Turkey, in which we're talking about how we can disengage units. And we talk about, okay, Italy's going to take Greece from you, you will not retreat to Albania. If you don't do that, then we're all going to get along and we can work this out. And Turkey agrees to that.
Interesting.
Now, the frustrating thing is I'm in a thread with Germany and Turkey about how we can the three of us can work against Russia. And Russia and Germany Germany decides to dot England rather than stop Russia. And that was enormously frustrating. And we explained all you have to do is either support Norway or do Norway to Sweden with Skagerrak support and bring North Sea into Norway to bounce them out. And we talked about all these ways. And Germany just kept saying, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And this is my conversation with Turkey. We were so mad at the Germans because we're like, look, you are letting the Russians really expand. You had an opportunity here to take 2 dots from the Russians, but you decided to just dot the English and give yourself up to the French.
Well, looking at the map, didn't Russia use both Finland and St. Pete to support Sweden to Norway?
Yes. So they couldn't have gotten 2. You're right. They could not have gotten 2 dots.
Right, only 1. And ultimately, with them losing Holland, if they hadn't gained an English center, they would have stayed constant instead of getting a build.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because there's a way here that Germany could have done it.
I don't think so, but
is there not a way?
There might be actually. I mean, I know Germany could definitely guarantee Sweden. I don't think there's any way that Germany could protect Norway because unless that was all Germany did and didn't try to get Sweden.
Yeah. Point is, we were really upset at the Germans because they decided to dot the English rather than help fight the Russians. And we're like, look, you need the English alive right now to keep the French at bay. So don't dot them. And you were more persuasive.
I'm going to be honest. I think this whole time Germany has cared much more about the relationship with France than the relationships with Austria, Italy, or Turkey. And of course, Russia has betrayed Germany, and Germany wants to get revenge. I think that's the reason why he's even talking to you about fighting Russia.
What I don't understand is why did they then dot the English here?
Well, because Germany still wants to work with France, and therefore the English center there is totally open if England is defending Liverpool, and if England isn't defending Liverpool, then I could snatch it. So between Germany and I, even though we didn't specifically coordinate, we should have a guarantee of getting one of those 2 centers.
That's fair.
So England's an enemy in any case for Germany, and England and Germany, I think, both kind of know that.
And so you decided to dot Germany.
I decided to dot Germany.
This was probably a little premature on your part. I think you could have gotten more out of them.
I think you're right, to be honest. I think that I think that with the way things were shaking out, I would have ended up with London and Liverpool, and then I could have stabbed Germany at that point, when Germany is wondering when he's going to get Belgium.
Just wait till those English are a little bit more dead.
Yeah. I do think that was a mistake. You know, sometimes I can be a little too aggressive because one of my big things is not being aggressive enough.
I have noticed a trend with you, Florida man, and I think all of your YouTubers should recognize this, that when you play France, you stab Germany too prematurely.
I get a little cocky. This is why I never say that France is my best country. It's Austria or Russia, and then after that, Turkey, not France.
you got a little too greedy there. So it was very funny. And so, of course, I play this up about how, I mean, you also moved into Marseille, and so I'm trying to make the Germans and the Italians really worried about you. You know, I'm trying to do that. And the Germans are like, oh yeah, no, the French stabbed me. I'm so mad at them. I'm doing the central triple. I'm in now, guys. I'm in. I'm like, okay.
I mean, is he not in? Is this not the turning point where Germany becomes a member of your pact?
No. Germany never joins.
How do you join? Do you just sign a paper, or
you join by doing just 2 consecutive turns following the plan. Germany won't do it.
Did he get one turn in following the plan?
Yeah. So spring, he followed the plan.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see. It's that fall season. That's the fall season keeps tripping him up.
We'll keep coming back. This is another recurring theme. As Austria, I keep wanting the Central Triple because I think it's more sustainable.
It is a powerful alliance for you.
And I keep falling into this AIR. I favor the Central Triple over the AIR. And so because I favor the Central Triple, I want to work with the Germans, but the Germans keep not wanting to work with me. And my relationship's not good enough with the Russians to actually follow through on everything. And we'll see that here in a minute. So I told the Turks, like, the Turks were like, hey, don't take Serbia, do something else. And I said, I'm not going to close this window. I'm going to take Serbia back because I think that we can find a way to work this out. And they were upset about it, but they kind of respected that. So that is a factor for soon.
All right. So here are the builds. Nothing really for you to talk about here, I don't think, unless there's something you want to mention.
No, I'm just telling the Italians, hey, they moved against you. Take your fleets and go against France.
And I build an army, a very Italian-friendly army, very clearly intended to go somewhere that isn't Italy.
Sure. So, I mean, at this point, I think the viewers should know I am in every conceivable three-way thread.
But are you in a three-way thread with me in England?
Except for that one. So I have the AIR going, where we're talking how to attack the Turks. Mm-hmm. I've got the GAT going, about how to go after the Russians. I've got the Central Triple going, and now I've got an FIR. And this was a funny point where I was like, I'm interested in the FIR if we call it an AFI. And then you started a new thread as like, this is the AFI.
The American Film Institute.
No, it's the band. Come on, guys. It's the band.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's a band. It's a great band. I love that band.
Okay.
And this is just me staying alive and trying to make sure I get in. And I'm playing every possible angle I can. And it's hard. But it's working.
Yeah.
So, everything here is coordinated with every power in the Balkans. The Turk, well, except, there's a really big except here. Mm-hmm. So, the Turks think that I'm supporting the Italians into Greece, and they're okay with that. Mm-hmm. They plan on taking the Aegean, and in exchange of Italy getting Greece, Italy will disband the fleet in the Aegean and move after you.
Interesting.
Hence why that fleet goes. And Italy's okay with that. So Russia and I'm okay with Russia tapping me in Budapest. That's good. And I've got the Turks that they're going to move into the Black Sea, and they're going to help turn against the Russians. And that's what they think is going to happen. I also coordinate with the Germans in the German and Turkish thread, in which this was another really frustrating point. I tried to get the Germans to move into Silesia, and they wouldn't do it. And so I lied. I told the Russians, hey, the Germans are coming to Silesia. You should go to Silesia to bounce them. And I told the Germans, hey, the Russians told me they're moving into Silesia. You should move to Silesia to bounce them. And so because I lied to them both, I made it happen.
You made them waste their moves.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I did that because I couldn't get the Germans to just move into Silesia to help me. I kept being like, move into Silesia. Russia doesn't know you're coming. Come to Silesia and help me against the Russians. And they just flat out said no.
You know, I think your deception would have been even more effective if you had, in terms of getting your actual foreign policy objectives accomplished, if you had said to Germany that Russia was going to Silesia and said to Russia that Germany was going to Prussia.
Yeah. I don't know if the Russians would have sold that. So I don't know what happened with the Germans and the Russians up there with the North Sea and Norway. And I'm trying to broker peace between Germany and England so they can work against you, and that's obviously not working.
Unfortunately, things didn't work out that way.
So the most important thing is Italy and I arranged that rather than me supporting them into Greece, they were going to convoy that army into Albania. And we wanted to do this because we wanted to paint the Italians as the bad guys to get the Turks in bed with me a little bit more so that we could make a really good move against them here in the fall. And we also lied to the Russians about this. There was a reason we lied to the Russians, and I don't exactly remember. I think this was part of the Italian plan, but we're just trying to make it look like me and Italy don't totally get along, so that we can later capitalize this, which this actually ends up kind of working.
I love all the complicated planning you're doing.
What's that?
I said, I love all the complicated planning you're doing, and I'm just over here, like, I'm stabbing you now!
Oh, your side of the map was so much easier. So this was a really difficult point where I think the Italian plan was, and I'm sorry, I'm going off of memory on this, so maybe I get some of the details wrong.
It's all right.
And hopefully the Italian plan corrects me. But if I remember, we wanted to convoy the army into Albania, and then the fleet in Aegean was going to retreat to the east, to Eastern Mediterranean. Mm-hmm. Because from there, in the fall, we can support them into Greece, and east can be set up for the Lepanto in the future, and can be set up to, like, do some damage. And so I think that's what the plan was.
Did Italy miss the retreat?
What's that?
Did Italy miss the retreat phase?
So the problem was Italy, Turkey, and I were all on as soon as it adjudicated. And when Turkey saw the convoy, they flipped out. And they said, if you do not disband Aegean, I'm going to throw to the Russians. Mm. And so this forced Italy and I to, like, really think about this and talk about it and figure out, do we still want you to retreat to east or not? And this is when Germany jumped in saying, you have to disband that fleet. And you jumped in telling the Italians to disband the fleet. And everyone was telling the Italians to disband the fleet.
Did I? Oh.
I think so, because he really liked you and he listened to, like, a lot of the stuff that you said.
I mean, Italy was the only one, I think, who figured out who I was as well. Mm. So, I don't know.
And so this was a scenario in which if the game did not have press for retreats, or if it had been adjudicated within 5 minutes, Italy would have retreated to east. But because there was the other retreat, Germany, from Edinburgh to York, and he clicked the adjudicate early box, but it didn't adjudicate for a while, we ended up in the scenario where we had to talk about it. Because we had to talk about it, he ended up disbanding it.
So tournament play would have made this come out very differently, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Anything else you want to tell me about this season? Seems like the RT and AI things feel a little more solid right now. I mean,
yeah. And the Italian army is supposed to go into Tyre to support the Germans. I mean,
I see. That does not surprise me in retrospect. I mean, it's funny that you guys keep trying to make this central triple happen, though, because of the fact that Germany has never cooperated with that at all.
Well, and Italy and I had a long conversation about this, that at the end of the day, it's going to be a scenario where we force Germany into a central triple rather than them willingly do it, because now they're fighting you. So once Italy gets to the place where they are fighting you, then they'll be reluctantly fighting you, and they'll end up on the same side.
Ah, I see. That is an interesting plan, trying to recruit an unwilling ally that way. But I get it. I see the sense in it.
Yeah, and yeah. So let's go to fall.
All right. And we see that the fall, has its ups and its downs for all of us.
So because Italy disbanded the fleet in the Aegean, we got Turkey on board to fight the Russians. And so I kept using the AIR thread and like, hey, Russia, this is the moment. This is how we're going to do it. And we're going to kill the Turks. And
Russia continues to be untrustworthy toward you.
And Russia is like, yep, we're going to hit the Turks. And so I had it all set up that this was going to be that turn where we pivot the Turks into the Russians and me into the Russians, and I pick back up Trieste. It's going to be okay. But the Russians didn't trust me enough they also didn't trust the Italians after,
What was Russia supposed to do?
Russia was supposed to. They were either going to move Warsaw into Silesia, or they were supposed to. They were going to support me from Serbia to Bulgaria, I think.
Huh.
Again, I'm sorry, I don't remember the details.
Well, that's interesting. And was Russia expecting you to support yourself into Galicia at this point, or was that just a thing you decided to do on your own?
That was a thing I decided to do with Italy.
Ah.
Because we were like, hey, we've got Turkey on board now. Turkey knows you're taking Greece, and Turkey's okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
And Turkey knows my moves here, and Turkey's like, hey, you should hit Galatia. And the Germans like, you should hit Galatia, do it. It's like, okay, I'm going to hit Galatia. So the Germans, the Turks, and the Italians all knew I was going to hit Galatia, and they were all on board with it. So we finally get the Italians moving after you. And Germany's happy about that. And this is where, like, the English, we tried getting them to do something, and they were like, sure, and then they didn't do it. And I don't blame them. They're kind of a privateer at this point.
Yeah, England's listening only to me at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which was very convenient for the moment that it happened. It happened for like 1 or 2 seasons or thereabouts, and it was very convenient while it happened, and it was only because England wanted to send a message to Germany, who had been so difficult for England to deal with for a little while.
Yeah.
Because just
and
like
this was another scenario where I'm like, hey, Germany, I just need 2 turns, man. You did the last one. Okay. Now go to Prussia or Silesia. Do it. And he just was like, no.
I think Germany going to Prussia or Silesia would honestly be a bad move for him.
Have you taken Berlin?
What?
If you had taken Berlin out?
Yeah, because I think that he might reasonably think that Tyrolia is actually going to support me into Munich or something. And I do move Holland. I do try to move Holland to Kiel, which would have cut support from Munich. I did expect Italy to support me into Munich. So, like, if Germany had any awareness at all of what I was saying to Italy, and I don't know how Germany would have that awareness, but if he had some inkling of that, then Germany was smart to be supporting Munich to hold. And Germany knows that, that he hasn't been doing anything to be trustworthy to you guys, so might understandably think it's likely that, he's about to be attacked from more than one side.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
But I do see your frustration, because Germany has never done anything at all to help you.
Yeah. And so Russia sends me a really funny message after this and was like, haha, no build for you. That's fair.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That yeah, I think
so we coordinated taking back Trieste. Let's go to winter.
Okay.
So Italy knew I was taking back Trieste, and they were still going to get their builds. And this was another tense point. We're like, okay, Turkey. We were upset about the moving into East, and so we said, you better disband it. And they said, okay, and they did. And so Italy and I have Turkey on board with fighting the Russians now. Germany is kind of on board with fighting the Russians. And we've got Italy at a point where Italy can maybe get in position to maybe do some damage to you.
Yeah,
maybe.
Possibly. Anything could happen.
So
I'm very casual about this now because I got 2 builds that year, and they're both fleets. Because I am ticked off. I am threatening Italy with fire and fury that will rain down.
And it worked. I will tell you that it worked. Me and Turkey are trying to tell Italy, dude, you gotta hit France. And he's like, no, I don't think so. And he wouldn't want to do it. And going back to the thing I said earlier, you can't keep pushing the same button and telling someone to do something or else they will turn on you. So I had to drop it.
No, I agree. I think that's true. I think it's a shame that you guys couldn't continue kind of moving in one direction for a while, though, because this back and forth in the East is really what's keeping you both down. Because Austria and Italy could both be really large powers by this point. I mean, like, I think Turkey could be dead, or I could be like reduced to my northern half or something.
Yeah. And this is where I got greedy, because I thought my plan was all worked out, that I was going to take Galatia and things were going to be great. And I should have just not. Because if I hadn't, then I would have had the Russians on board for this turn. So.
Yeah. But what we see is that Russia is not...
So
Really?
Italy strikes back up the AIR thread. Hey, let's get along. And Russia says, okay, just stop trying to take Galatia. And I'm like, okay, let me into Serbia. And they're like, all right, I'll let you into Serbia. I'm not going to support the Turks. Turkey is going to hit Greece. That's arranged. We all know that's going to happen. And at this point, I'm reminded of a Sun Tzu quote. When you are, I'm trying to remember exactly how it goes, but the concept is hide your strength.
Yes.
And so I know I have that 4th unit. It's just not on the map yet. And so I'm trying to hide my strength and get into a position where all of a sudden I go from 3 armies to 5.
That would be nice.
So
for that, you need Romania.
So I'm, or Bulgaria, or Greece. And so I'm doing all the sweet talk to everybody. And everyone knows I'm moving to Serbia, and the Russians think I'm going there to attack the Turks, and the Turks think I'm going there to attack the Russians. And with Italy, I've got this coordinated that we're gonna do the Lepanto and move in, all the usual stuff, right? And I was so mad. I told the Italians, dude, just try for Marseille. You've got nothing to lose. Just try for it. Just try for it. And he's like, no, I don't want to piss off the French anymore. I'm not going to do it. So I might as well just support them to make them like me. They had a chance right here.
I knew that a wise Italian player would probably not attack Marseille here. And at the same time, I also had confidence that I had, I think I correctly assessed Italy's state of mind. And I had confidence that Italy was not going to continue attacking me, which is why you see Brest move to the Channel instead of to Mao, which I think from my side is a real power move. Italy sitting in Piedmont and Gulf of Leon. And I don't
Italy pegged.
Oh, man.
You had Italy just pegged. You knew everything they were going to do.
I was very lucky. I was very lucky.
Everything you were doing could have collapsed right here.
Yes. Oh, man, it was so risky.
If Italy had taken my advice and taken Marseille, it would have been a world of hurt. You could have taken back Marseille, but we would have had the Germans on board hitting Burgundy. Like, things could have got really messy right here. This was another point where the Germans were like, okay, I'll move into Prussia, Silesia, and help you, and then they didn't. I was like, all right. At this point, I think Italy and I had a conversation where we're like, we're just not going to talk to the Germans anymore. And Turkey, so I'm doing the whole thing with Turkey about how the Germans actually don't want to help, and they're really bad allies, you shouldn't trust them, and Turkey's parroting that back to me. So at this point of the game, nobody trusted the Germans or was working with them. And that's going to be important later on.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right. So in the fall, I see you finally begin. You show your strength now because you are successfully executing that plan of yours to jump up to 5 from 3.
Yep. So I only told Italy that I was moving to Bohemia. This is another one of those important turns. So Italy and I had a very long conversation. Do we want to work with the Turks or the Russians? The Russians are not as responsive, but they've been more honest. And the Turks, and we had a long conversation about this, and the Turks had very rude to a couple of people, and we decided we can probably knock out the Turks and we'll have more to gain by that. And so we calculated I was going to take on the Turks.
This is interesting.
So Turkey and Germany and I were in this 3-way, and Italy and Turkey wanted me to do one plan that would have got them like Romania and Sevastopol, and it didn't look like a very good long-term plan where I was going to end up in a decent place.
Yeah.
And I was doing all the calculations of like, okay, what if I work with the Turks here against the Russians? And it wasn't going to get me in a good spot. And the Russian plan, where we knock out the Turks, gets Italy in a decent spot that I can then eventually turn on the Russians. So like for the long term, it's probably better I side with the Russians and take out the corner power.
To be honest, I think that I think that's I don't think that was the stronger play, but I understand that like the Turkey was probably going to be more trouble to work with, so it was like. But the reason why I say that is because I know Turkey only has 4 centers to divide, and I know Russia will want at least 1. And I also know that if you guys defeat Turkey, Italy's ability to help you will be pretty much at an end, because Italy can't attack Russia unless it's by going through Constantinople.
And that was the plan. We're going to put that fleet through Constantinople. We're going to convoy the army from Greece to Smyrna. I can DMZ Serbia when I take Romania. You know, it'll be an easy DMZ.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I think you and Italy have the strongest trust between any pair of players on this board for sure, and that's a powerful asset to you.
Yeah.
But I do think you were going to have more trouble attacking Russia later than you would have had defeating Russia now and then attacking Turkey later. But yeah. I don't know. Hindsight, it's just like that's usually the way I think about it as Austria. But
and the other factor here is I have Italy chomping at the bit who wants a slice of Turkey.
Oh yeah, I understand. You know, Thanksgiving can't come soon enough.
Right. And Turkey had done something to make the Italian player really, really upset with them.
Oh.
Some of again, going back to that pegging the personality.
Yeah. That personality was real difficulty for Turkey in this game, is basically a lot of what you're telling me. Yeah,
and Italy made the assessment of personality-wise, we can work with the Russians. We can't work with the Turks.
I think that's an important factor. I'm glad you're pointing it out for the audience.
And at this point, I have 2 turns in a row working with the Russians. Cool. Let's go with the Russians. And so I moved to Bohemia so I could get that other build, and I told the Germans, hey, this is here to support you in Munich. And I tried to get the Italians to like hit you, and they didn't really want to do it. And this is where the AFI thread comes back up about how we're together and all that shebang. And
I think it was entirely possible that it could have been a 3-way draw at the end between the 3 of us. Especially if you were able to do the thing I just mentioned. But that, you know, I get what the personality issue was an obstacle.
Honestly, between you, me, and Italy, it didn't matter who we attacked first. If we knocked out Turkey or Russia first, it didn't matter.
Yeah, it could have worked. At the very end, it could have worked, too, to knock out Russia, I would say.
But additionally, if we wanted to do the AFI, it's better that we knock out Turkey first because that keeps Italy occupied.
Yeah, that's true.
If we knock out Russia first, we just have Italy sitting there on their hands with nothing to do.
Yeah, that's true. Idle hands are, you know, not good.
And so it makes sense. If we're going to do the AFI... Okay, so let's go down my 3 ways here. If I'm doing the AFI, I got to knock out Turkey first. If I'm doing the AIR, got to knock out Turkey. If I'm doing the Central Triple...
It'd be good to knock out Turkey.
Probably better to knock out Turkey.
Yeah. Because
with all of my options on the table,
Russia.
There's more options in my favor to knock out Turkey.
Yeah, I feel that.
So, went for Turkey. And at this point, Turkey flipped out. And they sent me a message full of expletives and very, very rude things. And they lost it worse than they did earlier. And it was very unprofessional and very rude of them. And so what did I do? I sent that to my allies. And I said, look, this is the player. Like, you don't want to work with them. And my allies were like, yeah, that's a really rude thing to say. That's beyond the courtesy. And what that is it's just playing up on that personality, right? Hey, this is a player that's not going to get along with you. They're really rude. If they treat me like this, they're going to treat you like that. Yeah. And Russia sent back like, yeah, I got pretty much the same thing because apparently Turkey and Russia supposedly had something working here in which Russia also stabbed the Turks. And the Turks sent them a very rude message as well.
It's funny to say that the Russians stabbed the Turks here because the Russians are just supporting to hold and the Turks are attacking the Russians.
Yeah, maybe it was a year earlier. I forget when it happened exactly.
But yeah, that sounds like the kind of communication that will put people off from working with Turkey for the foreseeable future, potentially. And that sounds like that's the last nail in the coffin. Turkey's back in a very small box now with just Turkey's home supply centers and with Italy in East Med and you in Bulgaria. This is looking like close to curtains for Turkey.
Yep. And it came down to personality. It's kind of what started it and moved in that direction, and that they just kind of lost it.
Powerful factor.
Yep.
Going to the
So
build.
winter, I got my builds.
Nothing.
Turkey tried to strike a deal.
Turkey tried to strike a deal.
Turkey tried striking a deal with Russia.
Oh.
Italy and I and Russia planned for this, and we started coordinating how do we dismantle Turkey very quickly.
All right. And I see there's...
So now I've worked out with the Russians how we're going to DMZ the Galatia situation.
Mm-hmm.
And Germany...
Germany is helping. Germany's moving everything east. I don't know how you can complain about this.
So this was so frustrating because of like, Germany, you wouldn't help me when I needed you to help me with Russia. And Germany was really mad by the way that I attacked Turkey. And I explained to them, like, look, I am attacking Russia now. I'm moving to Silesia. I am moving in. I told them everything, like, just stay out of the way. Just stay out of the way. Just let me go. Wow. And they said, okay. And then they bounced me in Silesia. So I had this set up that if I got into Silesia and Bohemia and Vienna, I was going to be able to move really quickly into Russia, while Russia was moving south and to pick up Turkish centers.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Vienna was going to go to Budapest, Bohemia to Galatia, with support from Silesia, and I was going to be able to boot them out of Romania. Like,
I have a question. Like, why did you try to move? Why did you try Budapest to Serbia and Trieste to Vienna, Vienna to Bohemia instead of Trieste to Serbia and Budapest just stays where it is? And because if you need a unit in Serbia,
this was arranged with Russia. This was a setup for a fall stab. So Russia was supposed to move Galatia to Warsaw, and then in fall they were going to move Warsaw to Prussia. And so, sorry, I have to correct myself. So the plan here was Silesia was actually going to walk into Warsaw. Because at this point, I've done 3 or 4 turns now, everything on the same page with the Russians. And if the Germans just stayed dealing with you,
I see.
Then the Russians were on board that Warsaw was going to go to Prussia, and Silesia was going to be able to walk in while Vienna moves to Galatia and Bohemia backfills Silesia. I was going to be able to move everything in the right position. So Budapest had to go to Serbia in order to help DMZ that area. And in the fall, I was just going to take Romania with it. So this is 2 turns ahead planning for why, and everything got screwed up by the Germans.
Yeah. That sounds like your motto for this game.
And so we kept moving Italy in. Italy said that they're still on the fence about doing an AFI or a central triple. Mm-hmm. But like, I don't care. Either way, I got to take the Russians out next. So piss off the French or stay back, your choice. And he decided to stay back. So let's go to fall. This is when I was going to have that beautiful turn where I walk into Warsaw. Yeah. However, and I told the Germans, look, I'm going to Silesia this time. I'm stabbing the Russians. I will support you into Warsaw if you just let me move to Silesia. And so we see all this positioning again to get into position to support the Germans against you and to set myself up for a stab with the Russians. And I'm going back and forth between Serbia and Budapest just to keep the Russians out. Mm-hmm. And we're moving in for the kill on the Turks.
Ah. Yeah.
And let's go to the winter, and I'll tell you the winter conversation.
Okay, winter.
So this is where, in the ARI thread, we have a really long conversation about, like, look, Germany is irrational, Germany is very difficult, and Germany has decided that they want France to win. How do we break that up? So we had to find a way to break up the FG. So we came up with a plan. And the plan was, we're going to make it look like me and Russia stab each other again. So let's go to spring. So we're going to make it look like Russia stabs me by coming into Budapest and moving in like this.
What's interesting...
And we're going to get the...
Sorry, I was just going to say what's interesting here is that while you're making this feint to try and get Germany and I to fight, but actually at the same time, Germany's already turning on me.
Exactly. And so now I have planned for Germany to be Germany, and then Germany doesn't act like Germany. And all of a sudden, Germany wants to fight France now.
Yeah, who knew? Like, that's... uh-oh.
And so we've got to figure out what to do. And so, so we coordinate. Russia's going to stab me, and I'm going to try and stab Italy. And this is when I sell it to you that I'm stabbing Italy, and now you and I are going to be best friends. And you're like, yes, stab Italy. Do it, please.
Mm-hmm. I really believed you, but if it could happen, it would be great.
Oh, you didn't believe me?
I don't know. I don't think I really believed you, because you and Italy have been really solid the whole time together, and like there have been moments where I thought maybe one of you was stabbing the other, but then it always turned out that you were actually still tight. So since you're the only pair of committed allies on the board, I figured you'd probably remain so.
So I think that this move sold me and Italy's relationship is bad, and my relationship with Austria is bad, which we thought was going to be important to break up the FG. Turns out we didn't need this.
No, it was already unstable.
And we were under the impression that you basically got Germany to be a 5-power Janissary for you.
That was my impression as well.
Oh, so we were reading everything right except for Germany.
Yes, and the same for me, I think. I was also, I think, reading everything right except for Germany, and Germany was like thinking, I could survive, but I would rather get back at the person who stabbed me. Because if Germany had done what I expected Germany to do, you see here I actually entered support for Denmark to move to Sweden. And Germany would have taken Sweden, and I was going to take Holland back, but leave Germany at 5 centers, because I wanted Germany to still be strong enough to be an effective Janissary. So Germany would have eventually, given way to a French solo, but Germany would have lasted till the end.
Yeah. And this is where we see a pattern of Germany couldn't play the long game in relationships. And when you stabbed him years earlier, if he had come to the Central Triple and actually followed through and helped me with Russia, this whole thing would have gone differently. Last year, I would have been able to move up and in. Like, we just couldn't get Germany on a team, which is going to lead to what happens to Germany.
That sounds like a bad thing, like a real bad thing when you say it like that.
Well, yeah.
In this game.
So I thought I had you fooled with my fake stab of Italy. And so what we had planned, this was really fun. So I told you, and I told Germany, that I was going to stab Italy. And the plan was that I was going to be really mad about it to you and to Germany and be like, one of you guys ratted me out. And by making that play, it was going to cause tension between you and Germany to hopefully break you guys up. That was the plan.
This is an interesting...
Good, solid plan. Because we were going to be like, Germany leaked it. So funny thing, you and Germany leaked it to Italy. So Italy and I had coordinated this, and we're like, we're going to tell Germans, and we're going to make them both mad at each other by saying the other one leaked it, and then you both told Italy.
In fairness, this was me...
it was so funny.
I was still trying to club Italy over the head, like trying to be threatening and stuff, and I was like, no, Austria is also going to help me, so you better watch out. But I actually did not think you really were going to do what you said, but I didn't think you were really going to go after Italy, and I'm not sure. Maybe I did believe this was a real stab, just not a very effective stab.
After this, I was like, hey, did you leak it to Italy? And you're like, no.
Well,
Italy was telling me, oh yeah, France told me, and so did Germany.
Well, yes, that does sound like something I might have done. Even if I might have even just said in general terms that Austria will come after you. You'll see. You're leaving yourself open. I don't know if I actually warned Italy explicitly, but I'm sure I would have said something about, because I think I was saying stuff for a while about how Austria is going to come after you because, you know, you're a logical target for Austria and your units are occupied against me. But I don't know if Italy was. I think you and Italy had too much trust, and that was never going to be effective there.
So I think this was one of the funniest turns of the game, because Russia, Italy, and I are lockstep. We're trying to figure out how to break the FG, and we come up with this really good plan where Russia's going to stab me, and I'm going to stab Italy, and I'm going to tell my orders to Germany and France, and then blame you both for leaking, and it's going to cause the tension between the two of you. That between that tension and Russia stabbing me, you guys will get someone's going to stab someone. Good plan. And then you both leak it to Italy, and Germany decides to stab you back. It was hilarious.
Yeah. Ah, man, that is funny, and also a very frustrating moment for me, because I think this was the turning point for me away from the momentum I had gained that was moving me toward a solo. I should not have vacated Holland in the previous year. And I should have taken Germany down to 4 instead of leaving them at 5. If that happened, I don't think Germany would have been able to betray me.
Oh, so now I've got an awkward situation where I have a fake Russian stab, but a very real Russian army in Budapest. And
not a fake army?
Know that in order. What's that?
I was just making a bad joke. I said, wait, it's not a fake army?
Yeah. A fake stab, but a real army in Budapest. And at this point, every single one of my home centers has had an enemy unit there, except for Vienna. So we had to come up with a plan. 1, how do we get the Russians out? 2, in order to bring you down, we need Russian fleets in the north. So how do we do it in a way that Russia's going to get a build without doing any damage? And so we work out the balancing in the Turkish area, and we figured out oh, if I support myself into Budapest and I block Trieste and you just disband, then you'll be able to build in St. Pete. And so up to the retreat phase, that was the plan.
Yeah. And then you saw that Russia and I had made another arrangement where Russia would get support into Denmark.
Correct.
Which was because Germany, by betraying me, had brought about the end of Germany. And, should have known better.
And this is where all of a sudden I'm now having conversations with you in France. With you in Russia, sorry.
Very understandable.
And I think Russia told us about this plan to support into Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had worked it out that they were going to get into Denmark, that army, and they were going to be in the position that we were all going to snap our jaws shut, and all of us were going to kill Germany in one stroke.
That was pretty awesome. And
it was pretty cool. Next spring, no spoilers, but it was pretty cool. And so we realized, hey, since you got Denmark, there's no point in you disbanding that army.
Yeah.
And so you should build a fleet in St. Pete. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, it's weird how many Russians just really are not fond of the fleet in St. Pete. They think it's some kind of a trap.
They always think it's a trap, and it's not a trap.
It's not a trap! Gosh. Why do they always think it's a trap? Yeah, no,
I will say the difference, though, between this game and Talleyrand is the Russian player was like, I do not want to do a fleet in St. Pete because I'm going to get another build from Berlin. I'll be able to do the fleet then. And with the army there, I can still support Scandinavia. It's going to be okay. And he at least talked through it. What's that?
He at least gave an explanation and told you what his thinking was.
And it was more logical.
Yeah.
More. And I was like, you know what? At least you have 2 fleets up there. We are tying French fleets down in the south. We can still do this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
This is potentially a real problem for me,
And at this point, the AIR is going on a couple of years now where we're fully coordinated. We're all on board. We can do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. But so long as no one caves to your wily ways, we can actually beat France.
Who are you talking to here? Is there somebody else on this call?
Oh, we all know you're reaching out to every single one of us, proposing 2 ways, proposing some 3-way combination. We know that. Everyone knows that. And you should be doing that.
As the ambassador from France, I must say that I do not understand your accusations here, but they seem very unwarranted.
The only person no one is talking to is Germany.
Knock the jaws shut.
I think Germany sees the writing on the wall here.
We're going to do a partition of Germany.
Oh,
World War
man.
II.
So I'm still talking with Italy about how, dude, we can do this. I'm going to get the Russians committed into Germany. I will be able to make a lot of gains really fast in Russia. I mean, look at that. When Russia starts moving those armies over in the fall, like, this can be beautiful.
I don't know. I mean, Germany, or rather Russia, has like 5 armies on land.
According to the plans we had for 1908, where they were going to DMZ Galicia as part of our arrangement.
That
so
keeps being an issue, Galicia.
What's that?
I said that Galicia keeps being an issue.
It keeps being an issue, and we had a lot of conversations about this, and they were going to DMZ it, and I was going to take Budapest and Bulgaria away, and we were going to have a complete DMZ there. That was the plan, I think, for spring. And so we had it all worked out, where I'm trying to remember if this was planned that I was going to take Galicia or not. I think I was going to take Galicia, yes. I think this was planned. Yes, this was planned. Because I was going to take Galicia to boot them out so that it looks like I'm on France's side. And it's important to look like I'm on France's side so that we can get France out of position. And we were just going to bounce in Romania, which was the plan there. And I was going to be in position in fall that I was going to pull out, and it was all going to be okay. And this was that beautiful spring turn where Germany gets destroyed in a spring turn. And that's rare.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
It is very rare. You go from 3 to 0 in spring.
Looks like a dead face there, from a cartoon or something.
It was very funny.
Well, Germany had lived a full life, and those final moments were, I'm sure, very satisfying for Germany, knowing that Germany had successfully ticked off every one of Germany's neighbors.
Yep. And so Italy and I are gearing up for Germany's knocked out, and we're gearing up for the Russian invasion. So we worked it out diplomatically. It's arranged. I'm in Galicia. Russia knows that. And Italy's in position to take Ankara for fall. And then fall.
And we see that everything is going beautifully and all according to plan. And everything well done.
So, this was interesting. I have a lot of stuff to say here. The northern parts are all planned, where Munich is supporting Denmark to Kiel. And I was this close to not doing that, and just supporting Kiel instead, like I had told you I was going to do.
Yes. Yeah.
But
I was thinking we could take Russia out, maybe, because you were clearly positioned to take Romania. Italy could take Ankara, and Russia could be down to just the Scandinavian centers, Berlin, and home centers.
So I was... My plan here was I want Romania because it evens me out, and it's such an awkward DMZ. Oh, wait. So I'm so sorry. Go back to spring.
All right.
Start recording here. Galicia is not planned. I had told the Russians after I took Galicia, hey, I'm so sorry about this, but I need Romania. Because we had this conversation of like, look, once we bulldoze through Germany, either I'm in Kiel or you're in Kiel, and this is going to be a problem. Because if you're in Kiel, then you're going to blow through, pick up all of the English territories. You're going to have tons of territories. And if I'm in Kiel, then you have 5 armies sitting there with nothing to do. So you should take Kiel, and I'll take that risk as long as I get Romania. Because if I get Romania, it evens out our SC score, and we'll be better off. It's going to be okay. And I told him all this after I took Galatia. Like, look, I knew you weren't going to be okay with that, so I wanted to force the scenario. So if we go to fall now, and I explained to him, like, look, I'm taking Romania from Galatia, and I'm going to support you into Kiel. I know you didn't know about this ahead of time, but I think this is the best way forward. So it evens out our SC count, so we're all fair. This way you can continue to plow through France, pick up the English centers, and you're going to get Holland. I'm going to end up getting Belgium. It's going to be okay. And Russia was like, okay. And the Russian players seemed okay with that. Now, Italy had been working something out with the Russians and this is where Italy and I were not on the same page for the long-term plan. I wanted to 2-way or 3-way, and Italy wanted a 4-way. And Italy kept bringing up the 4-way, and I was like, nah, dude, we can do it. We could knock out Russia or France or both of them. I think we can do it. And I'm really gung-ho about it and planning out, years in advance how we can do it. And he didn't want to do it. And he's like, look, I really like the French player. The Russian player has been super fun. I think we should just 4-way. And we had a long conversation about like how neither France or Russia would agree to a 4-way. And if he proposed a 4-way, that would just cause France and Russia to go for a 2-way because they could split the map right here in the middle. And so I was going to do this where, hey, this sets us up for a 3-way in which Russia's in a very good position to keep going. I'm in Romania, and I'm in a good position to hold. And the plan was after this turn in winter, we were going to propose a 4-way along these lines. But Italy thought I was not going to agree to that 4-way, and I was going to be manipulative and find a way out of it to either knock out Russia or France. And so Italy decided it was beautiful. This turn adjudicates, and 5 seconds later, I have this really long message from Italy that they had typed up and they had prepared for this moment. And they said, I have set my orders to 4-way. I'm going to 4-way now. I'm proposing a 4-way for everyone. This has been a fantastic game, and I knew you would not do a 4-way under the plan that we'd proposed because I've been with you the entire game. And so right here, I am forcing you into a 4-way. And he played his right cards. He strokes my ego, and he's like, you're a really skilled player. You've manipulated everyone very well. You've done some pretty good tactics. And I know you won't do a 4-way, which he pegged me. I wanted a 3-way or a 2-way.
I wanted
and he's like, I'm forcing you into it. What?
I said I wanted a 1-way.
Oh, I know you did. I know you did. And I also knew that you were going to talk to Russia and be like, hey, Russia, let's do a 2-way. And then when it was your opportunity, you were going to take on the Russians.
It's remarkable that I think the least defensible centers on the map are the Scandinavian centers. All you need is to have, units nearby, and those things are really difficult to hold on to for the long term. It's, they're very nice centers. It's just a shame when something happens to them.
Yep.
But, I'm going to be honest here toward this ending part in these final moments when Italy had reduced you by his attack to these 5 somewhat scattered and difficult to defend centers. I was kind of pushing to take you out of the game.
Oh, I know.
I mean, and I would have been happy also with you guys turning on Russia or Russia and you turning on Italy earlier, but right now it just seems like the most feasible thing is a really quick pinch, and I think you would be gone because Munich is not defensible for you. Vienna doesn't have anything in it. Romania is surrounded by enemy units. Serbia is surrounded by Italian units. Budapest and Vienna are your only sort of temporarily defensible places.
I could be dead very quickly if the three
worked together
cooperated.
Yeah. And Italy wanted everyone to come out of the game alive.
Yeah. And so I had a very delicate situation here in which I have 24 hours during the retreat phase to get us into the four-way. So what do I have to do to convince everyone to get to the four-way? I have to convince Italy that I will throw the game to Russia, that I'm a kingmaker. And so I draw up the sandboxes for, look, Italy, this is how I will throw it to Russia. And to be fair, if I'm the Russian player and it also reaches out like, hey, man, here's how I'm just going to screw over the Italians, let me do it, I'd probably take that. It was really easy to do. So that was an easy sell on the Italians to get them to agree to the four-way.
I'm going to be honest, I think the Italians wanted the four-way. I don't really think you could have thrown the game to Russia.
I had a sandbox. I can send you the sandbox. Okay. There were ways that I could have done this. So pulling like Bohemia South, I could have taken Trieste right here. If Russia just supported me to Bulgaria, that's a really easy sell.
So I think you and Russia together would have gotten Trieste, Bulgaria, Caen, and pretty soon after you would have gotten Greece and maybe Smyrna, and I don't think you would have gotten any further than that. And if
that would have caused so many disbands.
What'd you say?
That would have caused so many disbands that Italy would have fallen apart pretty quickly to pressure from you on the other side.
I wouldn't have been putting any pressure on Italy.
That might be factual, but I had to make Italy think otherwise.
That's fair. If you and Russia were working together, I would definitely attack Russia. But I definitely see how Italy might be worried about me still, because I was definitely focused on Italy a lot. You see so many units in the south on my side because I was just making sure my position there was totally unbreakable from the south. I was prepared to throw to Russia as well.
So I sold that to Italy, and Italy bit. And I don't think Italy really had to buy it because Italy wanted a four-way anyhow, so I don't think I can take credit for that one.
So how did you sell to Russia?
What's that?
I said, how did you sell to Russia? Because Russia was the one who I thought wouldn't approve, and when Russia approved the four-way draw, I felt that I had no choice because I wasn't going to approve it until Russia approved it.
So I had two plans here. I had to have one set of plans for the retreat phase and another set of plans for the winter phase. Mm-hmm. Because if during retreat everyone sets their orders to four-way draw, it's over. And during winter, if they set to four-way draw, it's over. So I had two plans here. So for the retreat plan, so I sold to Russia like, hey, I will cause as much chaos as possible, and I will make sure that the French get up through into Germany, and I will throw everything at you. I can be very chaotic. And Russia bit very quickly. I was actually really surprised. Yeah. And they actually didn't take very much convincing at all. I think they were of a similar mindset of Italy of like, honestly, everyone's played an excellent game. I'm okay ending it here.
Yeah.
The hard person to convince was you.
You know, there's a saying about I forget what the saying is that, oh yes, the reasonable man accommodates himself to the world. The unreasonable man tries to force the world to accommodate itself to him. And I, myself, am an unreasonable man. I was still trying to figure out how I could get you all to give me a solo.
Once I had Italy and Russia on board,
yeah,
the next step in the AIR thread was, hey, if France refuses, then let's just take out France. And Russia agreed to that, and so did Italy.
And I knew that was what was going to happen. That was why when Russia accepted, I knew I had to accept.
Yep.
Because I knew Russia was already the person I was most worried about, because I knew my position in the south should not ever be breachable by Austria and Italy. But if Russia is on board with this draw and I don't accept it, I'm going to start taking some losses and probably be pushed out of the game entirely. And it might be a Russian solo, or it might be a three-way draw, or it might be whatever. It doesn't matter, because I won't be around to see it. So the most important thing is that I am in the result, and not that I uphold the soloist principle even to the death, because I can see that this will actually be to the death.
And I think I conveyed something like that to you. I sent you so many messages like, hey man, everyone's on board with this but you. It's going to go south real quick. So that was my retreat plan, which worked.
I was really shocked Russia was on board.
Yeah. I also had this beautiful message crafted for winter that I never ended up having to send. I was going to do a message to the 4 of you about, hey, everyone, I'm in the unique position that I'm a 5 SC kingmaker. Who would like to be king? I'll accept applications now. Or you can 4-way.
That would have been
that was my last play of get you all to think, oh, he's going to be kingmaker for someone else. I'll agree to it. But I didn't have to use it.
Well, that's too bad. That sounds like a lovely message.
I think that would have been hilarious for one, but also I think that could have helped tip some of you over.
Possibly, yes, because but I'm gonna say I don't think you could have actually caused someone to solo in this game. I think you could have caused Italy to become very weak, or you could have caused me to become a lot weaker. But I think you would have. Well, actually, like your leverage over me is a lot less than your leverage over Italy. Really, the one who had the leverage over me was Italy, because Italy was keeping all of my units pinned in one place.
Yeah.
But then that would have probably led to Russia eventually making some progress against me, just because of Italy. Well, if Russia had had more than 2 fleets in the north, but because Italy was my obstacle, whereas you were Italy's issue.
I am pulling up the sandbox I have. I still have it. If you want to look at just the tactics for how I was going to.
Well, why don't you describe it a little bit? And I mean, we can see that you were going to take Trieste, and also you and Russia were going to take Bulgaria pretty quickly, and Khan.
In spring '09, I was going to take Bulgaria with Russian support and tapping Trieste, and I was going to force myself to tire while letting the Russians into Munich.
I see.
And then in fall '09, I was going to support Russia in Munich and take Trieste and tap Greece. So that would have left me with 3 SCs, Trieste, Serbia, and Bulgaria, and Italy disbanding 2. That's the key there, is once Italy has to disband, things start to collapse very quickly.
Well, when Italy disbands, I'd be messaging him saying, Italy, amigo, why don't you disband Lyon and Westmed, and I will pull all of my units back.
But here's the thing. Once Italy is disbanded, Russia is at 14 SCs. And they can pick up Trieste, Serbia, Bulgaria, and Khan so easily that they get the solo. You know, if you take Bulgaria, I think Italy's going to retreat to Khan. And if they're in Khan and I'm in Bulgaria, I will support the Russians in.
Well,
because once they have Munich, and I have Trieste, Serbia, and Bulgaria, that's 14. Well, that's 17 with Trieste, Serbia, and Bulgaria. They only need 1. Khan, Smyrna, Greece, Venice, could be anything.
I do see some potential here to possibly get to solo. Now that you mention it,
and let's face it, if you're Russia and you have that 17, and you just need 1, you're gonna stick around and stick out that fight to get the 1.
Oh yeah. I get, but this also sort of assumes that Russia can hold on to all the German centers, all the Scandinavian centers, and I wonder how quickly I might have been able to pull something off to take 1 or 2, because
I believe you're so far out of position that it's going to take you a hot minute.
Yeah, you might be right. If I go into Helgoland, if I go into Skagerrak, if I go into Norwegian Sea, if I go into Mouta Channel. But it's still going to be hard.
It's going to be hard. It's going to be a guessing game, and he's got that new army in St. Pete coming over.
Yeah, and at the same time, if I move the North Sea Fleet, I'm risking that he gets into North Sea and
which I don't think
English. Yeah, no, I can see you really have a credible threat here of throwing the solo to Russia. Actually, much more serious than I took it at the time, honestly.
Thank you for recognizing that I'd figured out how to throw it to Russia to convince the Italians and to you.
I still think we would have stopped you, but it wouldn't have been easy if we did. It would have been difficult. And I think I was anticipating that we would probably stop Russia around 16 or 17 if you tried to throw, because I was thinking Austria can't really throw. Austria can mostly just throw the centers Austria has, and because Russia also was not that close to solo yet. But with the centers you could have given Russia, I see now, yeah, it would have gotten really close.
It's supporting Russia into Munich and letting Russia just let me move south and force those Italian disbands. It would have been game over.
I can see it. Could have happened.
So although I only ended with 5 supply centers, I think I really had 7. And I'm very happy with the game that I played. It was very difficult with a lot of really good players, but I routinely was thinking 2-3 moves ahead to get myself into positions to be able to honestly make a lot of ground. And I couldn't get Germany on board. I mean, I don't know what else I could have done.
It was a well-played game, I think, especially I would say your negotiations in the end and planning to, threaten to throw the solo to whoever didn't let you into the draw. You had more leverage than I recognized at the time, or perhaps that I was willing to acknowledge. I really wanted to pinch you out.
I know.
And also, you also did really well with when you had finally decided that you really wanted to get rid of Turkey, with actually doing that, and also kept a really strong alliance with Italy, which I think was the key to both of your success to a significant degree in the game. That you could trust each other for the most part and know that you had each other's backs, which I didn't have with any power in this game.
Yeah. And I will give Italy credit. They had me pegged. I did not want a 4-way, and by them stabbing me, they forced me into the 4-way. So the true winner in this game was Italy.
Yeah, Italy did force his will to happen.
They did?
Yeah. And Italy had leverage over you, had leverage over me, and by extension had a little bit of leverage over Russia. And thanks to you and Italy, Russia accepted the draw that I wasn't thinking Russia would be willing to take. If I were Russia, I would not have taken the draw. At least not before France. And Russia and France should have both not been willing to take the draw, and then the game would have gone on, and then I don't know, you would have thrown to one of us or something, and I don't know what would have happened then actually, because I think well, then it would have just been a knife fight.
Yeah. I know some people will watch this and be like, oh, he ended up with only 5 ACs. He's kind of the loser in the 4-way. I think I played a pretty good game, and I'm glad that I made it into a draw. And at the end of the day, a draw is a draw.
A draw is a draw. We are all equals now. I had been thinking, why did Austria get into this draw? We should have taken Austria out. And now you've really kind of changed my mind.
Now that you see I could have thrown it to Russia.
Now that I see how well you were planning, how well you were using your leverage and planning things out, yes.
I think that is one of my strong suits in diplomacy, is I can think 3 years in advance. Planning out, this is where we go next, this is how this happens, and kind of plotting it all out.
Well done, and
Okay.
and a good game. It was nice playing with you.
It was a very good game.
My thanks go out to those named on the screen at this time for their assistance in making this channel and its growth possible. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it entertaining. Till next time, Florida Man out.